It's time for another Kitsap County housing market update. We now have our completed May 2026 numbers, so we've got some new stuff to look at. Let's jump in and check it out. Okay, so let's start with our average sales price here in Kitsap County, and this is all property types. We can see from April, $663, and then with our finished May numbers, we moved up to $679,000 and a little bit of change. Taking a look back at previous years, we can see April 2025, we saw $663,000, very similar. And then we moved up to $675,000, very similar to what we're seeing now in 2026. Looking back at 2024, $630,000 in April, and then we moved up to $646,000 in May. So slowly working our way back up as we've seen since that all-time high in 2022. So I'm anticipating that we will see similar highs to what we saw in 2022 here coming up in the next month or so. We're going to be watching closely because we can see, looking at our history here, we can see that typically somewhere around June, July, August is where we will see our all-time high for the summer each year. This chart here is taking a look at new listings, the total amount of new listings that came on in any given month. So in May 2026, we saw 608 new listings, and you can see here that this chart stays pretty steady with our winter lows and our summer highs being very similar over the last number of years. And then of course back in 2022 and 2021 is where we saw that big peak in activity and sales prices. And then of course that coincides with the total amount of homes for sale that we have currently in Kitsap County. For those finished numbers in May, we had just over 1,000. And then let's take a look back over the last few years at April and May just for reference. So April 2025, 863, jumped up to just over 1,000 in May. 2024, April 793, May 916. 2023, April 692, jumped up to 764 in 2023. So just to give you a little bit of reference that this is looking very similar, very steady, very predictable to what we've seen over the last number of years. And staying on course with inventory, let's look at months of supply that's closed. We see that in May, our finished numbers are just over 3 months. For reference, somewhere between 4 and 6 months is considered a balanced market. And again, looking back, we're seeing very similar numbers, April to May 2.5, and 2025 to 3, 2024 2.4, up to 2.8. We're seeing inventory slowly increasing, which is a good thing to get us closer to that balanced market. However, looking out all the way back to 2006, looking at the big picture, we still got a little ways to go before we see more of a balanced market. Now let's take a look at days on market for anybody who might be listing their home or has their home currently listing and wondering what the heck, why hasn't my home sold yet? Well, looking at average days on market for Kitsap County, we see that in May 2026 was about 30. Now this can be skewed sometimes because you might have some particular properties that have been on the market for hundreds of days. So looking at the median, it's going to come down pretty dramatically. That's around 9. And so if you're someone who has your home on the market right now and you haven't sold and you're getting a little bit anxious, some good numbers to think about are these days on market. You could look specifically at your neighborhood, see what the average days on market are in your neighborhood. And then you could come over here and look at showings to pending, also specifically in your neighborhood. So let's say it's hypothetically that your neighborhood has 30 average days on market and they typically see 7 showings before they go pending. Well, if you've been on the market for 30 days or more and you've had 7 or more showings, it's likely that either the price or the condition of the home is lacking and therefore buyers aren't making an offer. If you've been on the market for 30 days or more and you've got less than 7 showings, that could also be a price issue. Maybe it's priced too high. Buyers are just not wanting to come and see it based on the price. It could also be a marketing issue. Maybe buyers aren't seeing it for the quality of home that it is. And so my overall opinion remains the same because these charts remain so steady and so predictable. It looks like we're continuing to see prices slowly increase over time. And that concludes this edition of the Kitsap County Housing Market Update. Thank you for watching. As always, if you're interested in buying or selling a home here in the Kitsap or surrounding areas, my name is Nolan and I can help. Feel free to reach out anytime or click the link below to go to my website. Thanks for watching.